Let's go over to VS Code and let's see how you reverse a string using JavaScript. And reverse a string is probably the simplest coding challenge that you'll face in the interview. But I'm going to show you how to apply these techniques to crushing your whiteboard coding challenges. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And we're going to use this to build all of our projects today. And it's this really cool editor by Microsoft. And it's really feature robust, and I really like it when I'm building things in JavaScript and HTML. And if you don't know, that's all built off folders. And so what we need to do is create a folder, and just to show you kind of what we're going to build today. Today we're going to build 4 files. And I'm going to bring in this reverse a string PNG and this style, and then we're going to make a reverse.js and an index.html. This is where we'll do all of our work in these 2 files. I'm going to bring these in just so that it can kind of look kind of cool. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to make a new folder, and it's going to be called reverse tutorial. Okay, and I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to copy these 2 things that I already had in here, and I'm just going to drop them right in here. So now we have those 2 things already set up. We'll look at these in a little bit, but it's not real important. So what I'm going to go over here is I'm going to go over here and open a folder. And you can see right here, I'm going to select this folder, reverse tutorial. And when it comes in, we should see now that I have this PNG and I've got my style.css in here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new file. And I'm going to call it index.html. Spell it right. And that's going to create a file for us. And then I'm going to use something called Emmet, which is gives us a lot of handy tools to complete things. And I'm just going to create this, and it'll go ahead and create me a base level kind of HTML file. So that's pretty neat. So right, you see here, this is just a base level HTML file. And I've installed some extensions in here, and this is kind of out of scope for what we're talking about. The extensions are doing the color coding here. Really accessible from just extensions over here to things that you can install. But not much of a concern right now so far. So what we have is basically an HTML file, and it's kind of empty. So let's go ahead and start kind of working on this a little bit. And so let's set up what it's going to look like, and then we'll actually code the reverse a string solve here. So I'm just going to give it a title. And so that's kind of here. And so what I want to do is I also want to go over here and make a new reverse.js file over here that we're going to link to. So now we have all 3 of them, and over here, so reverse.js is here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of link over to these files. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in a script tag here, and it fills it out for me. And then so I'm going to set the source to this script equal to, and since it's all in the same folder, it's going to find them for me. I'm just going to select reverse.js. And then I also want to go ahead and link to my style sheet. So the style sheet syntax kind of goes like this. Give it a type. And also going to need to tell it what the actual style sheet is. And again, when I do this, it gives me the style.css that's in my folder. But so that's kind of what we need to do. Nothing there. So now we've linked to reverse.js and we've linked to our style sheet. Okay, so let's get into the body tag and let's start making this look start building out our website. What I want to do is put an image header on top of this, just something I made to make it look a little better. So, you know, got to make it a little bit interesting. And so, should have found that, but it did. Oh, let's do that again. And then, so we src equals, and then what we're going to do is select our PNG that I've made. And again, I'll include all of this code in a GitHub or a Git repo, and you can find the link to it at the bottom in the page here. And I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to make a class called responsive. Nothing too major here, but that's what I'm going to call it. And that, if you notice, it picked it up. It already knows about my style sheet. And we'll go over the styles just real briefly. In fact, we'll do that right now. So if I click over here, you can see I've got my responsive style over here. And it's got a max width of 100% and it's got a height of auto. It just means it'll scale up and down. And then I've got a lot of these styles that I've created for different things for my form coming in. Probably more styles than I'll need. Notice one thing here, I've got this set to 18 pixels just so we can see it real well. So now that we've gone over that a little bit, because what we're trying to do is actually reverse a string, not really teach a CSS class here. So I'm going to create a div tag, and then I'm going to put a class on this. And I'm going to select one of those styles out of my style sheet. It's kind of cool. And then I'm going to create a, and then I'm going to put, this will govern everything that's going to happen on here on out. So I'm going to drop another tag in here, another div tag, put a class on it, and I'm going to pick the heading. So I've got a heading style that I've put together. And I'm just going to say enter a string to be reversed. All right. And so now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to enter in, create an input box. I'm going to create a text area that the result will be shown at, and then a button. Okay. But I'm using this thing called a label. And what I can do here is I'm going to also got a span tag. And so the label span has style set to it. And I'm going to have an enter a string, a little colon there. Actually, we'll just capitalize them all. And then what I need to put in here inside this label is an input box. And the input box has an ID, and we're going to call the ID of this box equals value. Make it lowercase. And then type equals its text. And we'll just give it a name for fun. Reverse me. All right. And that's about it for that. So that's I've got an input box with an ID that I'm going to use later to select with my JavaScript. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another label. I'm not typing well today. And so this label is going to have the results, hold on, results. And so I'm going to say span. Again, I've got a style on these label spans, so it looks a certain way. So text area, and then in the text area I'm going to say ID, and I'm going to give this the name results. And so this is what we're going to use to hold the actual reverse string that that our JavaScript is going to show us for. And then I'm going to just name it results, and I'm going to give it a class. Because I actually have some styling on the class as well. And you can see that it's going to be a text area field. Kind of cool. Nothing really hard here. So I've got that one going on. And so the last thing that I need to do is put another label on this one. It's going to be blank though. And so I'm just going to make an empty span here, and that'll be kind of like an empty placeholder. And I'm going to create another input here. And I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to actually give it a type equals submit. And I'm going to give it a value. Reverse me. And this will what'll kind of show up on the screen here. Okay, could have made it simple like that. Okay. Actually going to just clean this up a little bit. Just take out this extra tag here. And so if I've done this right, we should have an HTML page. Click on Go Live here, and what it's going to do is start up a web browser for me. And I'll bring that over after it starts up here. I'll show you what we got. So I've got two monitors here, typical easy way, and you can see now I've got like a logo, I've got a title, I've got my box here, and I can type in stuff. And right now, it doesn't do anything, which is okay. And also, I can do some really neat things just to show you how this responsive class works, so that I can kind of move this around here. Kind of neat. It's not a full-blown UI, but for now, for the purpose of what we're doing, it's pretty good. So I'm going to move this to the side, and this is what we'll use. Our reverse string will go right here when we're done. Okay, pretty simple. So we'll leave that up for now. Okay. So now what we need to do is actually do the coding of this. And so where we're going to do most of our work is over here is in this JavaScript file. So I just clicked on the JS file. If you didn't have it open, you could click here and find it and open it up. And I'm going to create a function. Now, a function is something that you can call from JavaScript, okay? And I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it reverse A, because I'm actually going to show you two ways to do this. And so, and then I'm going to pass this function a string, and I'm going to call it str. And I'm going to make an open and close bracket. And so now this is like the definition of our function. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to return str dot, and then when I hit dot, it's going to give me some things sometimes, but you'll have to know what you can do. And this is a built-in thing that will push this into an array. And then I'm going to reverse the array. And this is another dot from inside a built-in JavaScript function. And then I'll join them all back together into a string. Semicolon. So this is how you would do it with a built-in JavaScript function. But if you did this in an interview, people probably would say, yeah, that's great, but that's not kind of what we're looking for. What we're really looking for is how would you do this in a loop, because we want to understand how you think. So tell me what you think's going on inside of all of this JavaScript split.reverse. This is actually spelled wrong here. Notice that. Having a bad day spelling today. I haven't tested this yet, but So that's kind of this. So this should work really well. So like now, what I want to do is I want to use a loop to do this. Now a loop, we can demonstrate our logic skills instead of just showing some kind of built-in function. So I'm going to make another function, and I'm going to call this reverse, if you can guess, B. Okay. And I'm going to pass it a string as well. And so this would be one of the solves, or one of the ways, and one of the many ways that you could actually show how to reverse a string. Okay? So what I'm going to do is create a variable, and I'm going to call reversed, and I'm going to set it to an empty string. And then I'm going to declare a for loop. And what I'm going to do is loop over the incoming string in reverse, reading out each of its characters from the end to the beginning, and tack those characters on into this reversed variable here. Okay? Pretty easy. So to do this, we need a loop, and so I'm going to declare a variable called I, and the I will be for our index. And it is going to be equal to the string that's being passed in, the length of that string, okay, minus 1. Now, if you know anything about JavaScript, you do know that Java arrays start at 0 and not 1. So if our length is 10, we want to take 1 away from that because we want to actually count down to 0 and we don't want to count down to 1. And so that is why we got to do this. So now we're going to say while I is greater than or equal to 0, keep looping. And every time you loop, subtract 1. And that is, in essence, a for loop. And now all I have to do is equal to, I'm going to say plus equal, which means add to it, don't override it with each time. So add to it. If you put just an equal, it would just have the latest character in it. So we want to add to the reversed. And what we want to add is the string of index I. So if you don't know this, a string is each made up of individual characters, and this I right here is the position of each of those characters, and it's taken the character out of the string at the position 9, 8, 7, 6, whatever the position is, and adding it to this string in reverse, because this number is coming down every time. If our character was 10, if our string or word was 10 characters long, it would start at 10 minus 1, which would be 9. It would take character in the 9th position, reverse, take the 8th one, reverse, 7th, until it reached 0. Okay? And when it reached 0, it would get out of the loop between these two brackets. And what I'm going to do now is I want it to go ahead and return the value of reversed. And that is how you essentially loop to reverse a string. Now, you could stop there, and people could clap, and they could offer you a job. You could get a 401k. But that's not why they brought you in. They want to know if you can code. So one of the things you could do is, how could I use it? How could I demonstrate how I use it? So let's do that. So I'm going to create a brand new function, and I'm going to call it reverse me. Okay? And this is the function that we're going to use to actually implement our reverse B function that we just wrote here, so that we can test it to see if it works and show people that we can do it. So again, I'm going to create another variable in here called reversed equals string. And what I'm going to do is I need to get the value of what the user types into the input box. So if you come over here and look, I want to get this value in this box. So how you do that is you've got to use a JavaScript function. So we're going to create a variable here, and we're going to say, I want to look at the document, and this is how we can start looking at the HTML document. And I want to get it by element ID, and I want to get the one named value, and I want the value from the box, semicolon. Okay, so if we go over here and look at our index, you notice that enter a string input, its ID was named value. And this is how this works. It looks it up by name and finds it. I don't know why it finished code for me there, but I didn't want it to. Okay? So now what I need to do is get the reverse string. So now that we have the value here, we can call our function. So I'm going to use this variable. I'm going to say equal to, and I'm going to call this function called reverse b. I'm just going to type it in here. It starts with the lowercase. And you notice it's filling it out for me, so I'm going to click on it. All right, and I'm going to pass it this variable right here. Pretty neat, right? So now, once I get the reverse string back, I'm going to get element ID, and now I'm going to set a value. Okay, and so the one that I want to set a value to is one called result. So if you look back over here, this is called results. It's not called result, it's called results, and that's the ID. So go back over here and actually call this results. Glad I looked. And then I want to say enter, and you can use text or HTML. I'm going to use HTML in case you want to ever pass in some formatting. In this case, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to set that equal to this variable here. Okay? And hopefully that makes sense to you. And again, I am not typing well today. So that is our complete JavaScript. Okay? Now, the one thing about Visual Studio Code is when you save all, it's going to refresh our page here, which is kind of cool. So they don't have to keep restarting the app or whatever. And if you notice, if I type in my first name here and hit reverse, it doesn't do anything. And that's because I haven't wired this up on my front end yet. So let's do one more thing, and then we'll show you how to reverse it. So I'm going to go back over to my HTML. And what I need to do is make sure that on the click of the button, which is right here, it actually calls the reverse me function. So in here, in my input button, I can type in on click, and then just give it the name of the function that we called, which in this case was reverse me. Okay? I'm just going to copy it. Having a bad time typing today. And so that is our function. And so now I'm going to make sure that these are saved. This shows you that I don't have anything saved yet. I'm going to save them all. And let's see if, in fact, this worked. It should work. When I saved it, refresh the screen. So let me hit Bobby and hit reverse. And look at that. It reversed it. YBBOB. So that's how you reverse a string.